Welcome back to another Foxhole tutorial. This one will be on all the colonial vehicles. You see, I have the 5 pads needed, and I will go over each one and its upgraded counterpart of what is taken care of. We have the motor pool, the battery line, the weapons platform, the field station, and the tank bed. We're going to start with the motor pool, considering this is when armored cars and everything else become available within here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to town. I'm going to explain to exactly what their base part is and also what their capabilities are as well before upgrading. So when we return, we will start with the motor pool and with everything in here. And I'm going to explain what I'm going to do with every single one. After I am done building them, I am going to drive them to the seaport. Once I am done submitting them to the seaport, which I will show how, I'm going to grab the materials needed and I'm going to hammer out another vehicle that is needed. And then we will go from there. Okay, now that we are back in the town, we're going to start with the 2 motorcycles, or the single motorcycle, I should say, that you can build and show its upgraded variant. So you're going to first make your way to the town and find yourself a garage. From there, you are going to interact with the garage and see how much the basic caster costs. The basic cost of this is 85 basic materials. From here, to grab the B mats, and again, this is still on Dev Branch, and you are able to hammer out a motorcycle. Keep in mind, if anybody or yourself is inside of this center area where you see the blueprint of the motorcycle, it will not allow you to build it. You must clear out the area in order to do so. So once this is built, we're going to head directly over to the facility again on the pad that it will be upgraded on, which will be any pad. Any small pad will allow you to upgrade a basic motorcycle to its upgraded variant. And just like the facility building tutorial, the basic one, Click Clock, comes in play here. You can see as I'm moving the cursor around, it's moving him to where he's looking in the area that I am aiming at, while still maintaining the build. This is what I was referencing on whenever I mentioned Click Clock. Once your vehicle has been completely built, hop in the driver, which is on the left-hand side, and ensure that you get fuel or you're not going to be able to move. What we do is we double check this one is petrol. And considering it's petrol, we click this little button here, change fuel. We'll swap it to petrol, and you are good to go. Alt left click to drop the other fuel out, and we are good to go to head over to the facility and get this upgraded to its upgraded part, the Stinger. Keep in mind the turn and stuff on here is very, very touchy, as you will drift and spin out of control, as noted here. Tap where you want to go. Don't just hold, you'll spin out of control. And if you're already starting to lose control, then you are able to correct it by simply tapping it or letting off the gas. Now, motorcycles are very good at getting up in an area to build out watchtowers, to kind of scout out the area, partisan activities. Like they have their purpose, and they have decent speed off-road as well. Not too fast, but just enough to be a nuisance to the enemy. Now, regardless if that bridge has been destroyed, we will still utilize the side road and everything else. So once I am at the facility, I can go to any of my pads, and I'm going to go to the one that is back here. The one thing I like about the motorcycles, they are small enough, they can typically fit through very narrow and tight spaces. Unless they changed the hitbox. Would normally be able to fit through here, but I guess the hitboxes have been changed. No big deal. There's still an opening over here, and we are still good to go. It's also important to note that no matter what vehicle you are upgrading, always change the fuel. This way it doesn't empty out and is not empty on fuel. Now, Singers only cost 5 construction materials and is a real time of 3 minutes. Death Branch is instant. Now, what makes the Stinger very interesting is you notice that there's now a gun on the side. So let me go ahead and swap the fuel of this to petrol. Drop the diesel, my third slot, and left click on the motorcycle. Doesn't matter where you interact with, as long as you're able to put it on here. If you are with somebody who's going to go out and provide immediate support, a good rule of thumb, because you both are exposed, always wear a heavy flak vest. That covers the motorcycle. Up next will be the hauler and its counterparts, the Sisyphus and the Speartip. Now that we're back in town at the seaport, what we are going to do is I'm going to show you how to submit an item to the seaport. First and foremost, you want to make sure the inventory is completely empty. Then you want to press E down here, interact with the seaport, and you'll see this submit vehicle icon. If you click that, it will immediately go to here. And to pull out a vehicle from public, you open it up, this is where it will be in public. Now, if you are part of a regiment, you press this drop-down menu and you are able to pull out anything so long as you have the stockpile 6-digit code, meaning if it's 420069, nice, you are able to pull it out. Public, anybody has access to, and it is a much longer pull time. I am going to pull a hauler out instead of building one. This way I can show you the submission and the pulling of a vehicle from a public stockpile. The same thing applies here, like the motorcycle. You will have a little bit of fuel, swap it out if you have petrol, and fill it up. And once we get to the facility, I will show you the upgraded version, the Sisyphus. Okay, now that we are back at the facility, let's upgrade this to the Sisyphus. It is important to note your standard hauler has 15 inventory slots for 15 specific items. Some items can stack up, others cannot. Loose shells, such as 120s, 150s, 300, 94.5, etc., cannot stack up. So we'll swap the fuel. we will interact with the pad, and the cost for upgrading the hauler to the R5B Sisyphus is only 10 construction materials. So once you click that, and again, thank you to Dev Branch for being very quick with it, you are able to build it. From here, I'm changing the fuel to petrol, and I'm going to fill it up. Now, the reason why I bring up the inventory, it is extremely important to note. Sisyphus has a 14 slot. That is because, one, this vehicle is a lot quicker when on the road, or even off-road, because it has what I like to call a little bit of a turbocharger. And two, it has a speed boost. All you do is you just press, and you can hold shift, but your fuel consumption goes through the roof. That is the difference between the hauler and the Sisyphus. Next, I will cover the Speartip. Alright, once we have another hauler, we come over to the upgrade pad again, and we will upgrade the hauler to the Speartip. Grab it on the pad, again, swap the fuel so you don't lose it, unless the pad is super close. We come down here, interact with it, or in this case, Shift D to interact with it. And we select the Speartip, which again, only costs 10 construction materials. Click that, and because Dev Branch is fast, we're good to go. Similar to the Sisyphus, the Speartip has a 14 slot inventory with one caveat. There is no boost, but it is not defenseless. It has a 30-round magazine, 7.92 turret gunner. It is able to hold 100 magazines of 7.92. That is the main difference between the R1 hauler, the Sisyphus, and the Speartip. The Speartip is used primarily for transportation of items, and when needed to clear out the area of partisans or enemy infantry on the road, it is a good vehicle to just forge the enemies. This way you can actually make a foothold and have the advantage. Next up, we will be covering the ambulance and its upgraded counterpart, the Salva. One thing I did forget to mention is the Atlas hauler, capable of holding 2,000 raw resource or gravel or explosive powder or heavy explosive powder. Is very useful in transporting medium amounts of material where they need to go, especially whenever you're running an ammo facility and you need the capabilities to have your stuff moved in as fast as possible. Now that the Speartip has been submitted, we're going to run over here to the garage, and we are going to build us our ambulance. Ambulances are extremely useful, especially for medics out on the front line. They stockpile first aid kits, they are able to transport wounded soldiers, and they stockpile the bandages, first aid kits, trauma kits, and the blood plasma. Very useful in doing so, and the cost of the Atalas Ambulance, the R12 Atalas, is 150 DMET. Let's go ahead and grab 150. And much like before, make sure you are out of the way. Let's hammer us out a singular ambulance. You can also MPF the vast majority of the vehicles, aside from the ones that are made on large pads and the upgraded variants. All the base models, you can use a mass production facility in order to do so. So once this is done hammering, I am going to pull it out of the garage. We're going to swap the fuel, and I'm going to go over the inventory slots. And the reason why this was a lot faster is you had somebody in the garage helping. Thank you. So now we are going to swap the fuel, much like we have. We're going to drop the diesel. We are going to fill it up. With the Atalas Ambulance, you have a 9-slot inventory where bandages, wounded soldiers, you can transport wounded soldiers from, or critically wounded soldiers, I should say, from the area where they are bound up to a hospital, much like where I pointed out on the first video. A hospital, if one wants to pop up. There's a field hospital out. Let's say there's an active front over here at the Steer Road. An ambulance can transport the wounded soldiers from the Steer Road to Ixion. And utilize the ambulance as a means of transportation. Without that, it's a lot harder to do so, and be able to get it very, very functional and be able to create shirts from it as well. Let's go ahead and turn everything back on. Press space to enter the map back on myself, and we will be at the facility. I will upgrade this to the Salva. Alright, now that we've driven up to the facility, just like before, we take the ambulance onto the pad. We swap the fuel so we can constantly use it. And we select the Salva Firetruck. The reason why Firetrucks are highly sought after is whenever there is a tech discovery and a tech breakthrough, there will always be flamethrowers and 4C rockets along with mortar shells that will rain down on any base. It is imperative to always have a flame truck on standby, a fire truck on standby. The water can be found at any water pump, and as you can see where this facility building is right here inside the water, that is your general indication that there are water pumps nearby. All you do is you drive up to it, and just as if you were submitting something or pulling something from the stockpile, you'll drive up to it, stack like, oh, actually perfect. You'll pull it from the stockpile for the water, and if you have a person to help you, they will be on the back, and then you press R to reload. There's a little pump animation, and once it is loaded up, hold right click, and you're good to go to spray. Keep in mind, there is only a certain angle that you'll be able to hit. Fire trucks are also a good way to remove mud off of vehicles as well. Yes, mud is a thing in this game. Mud slows down your vehicles, it adds weight, and if your vehicle is muddy, you cannot submit it to a stockpile or storage or pack it up. Mud must be removed before that can happen. Now that covers the ambulance, up next will be the Xiphos and its 2 upgraded counterparts as well, the Percutio and the Gemeni. Alright, the next vehicle that we're covering, if I can have my stamina, will be the Xiphos. The Xiphos cost is only 25 refined materials. It is the very top left. It's one of the very first armored cars that come out that deals with anti-infantry. It's very effective of ensuring enemy infantry are pushed back. And it's a great infantry support vehicle as well. armed with a dual 792 turret. It is effective with any infantry that does not have their heavy vest or is in any garrison. The Xiphos cannot destroy tier 1 structures. And its functionality off-road is very, very, very poor. One, it doesn't have treads, and two, it's really hard to drive off-road because you don't necessarily have the best style tires for this. On top of its capabilities with the 792 as a turret, it can only hold 50 magazines in reserve, one loaded for a total of 50. And it has 2 slots, a driver and a gunner. Once we get this in the facility, we will upgrade it to the Percutio. Alright, now that we have our Xiphos at the facility, and in order to upgrade the Xiphos to either the Percutio or the Gemeni, must go to a multiple pad. It is the only pad that'll allow it to upgrade it to either of the items. So once you hop out, again, swap the fuel so that you don't lose anything. And then interact with the motor pool and select the Percutio. Now, what's interesting about the Percutio is, yes, it is semi-open top. And I say semi for a specific reason. It does have an open top, but it is not susceptible to sniper fire. It boasts a 150-liter fuel tank for either diesel or petrol. Most vehicles, light vehicles, I should say, can only hold 100. With the Percutio, it has a driver and a gunner. The gunner fires a 20mm shell. Also, like the Xiphos, it has a 360-degree traversal. It can fire in any direction so long as you are aimed at that direction. Very, very effective for stripping enemy armor. We will cover the Gemeni next. And unlike the standard Xiphos, it is very effective off-road. Main reason for the chains. This one is essentially a really good game changer for whenever light armor starts coming available, as the less armor that you have, the easier it is for your vehicle to die. This vehicle is good at disabling logistics trucks and logistics vehicles such as flatbeds, R1 haulers, spear tips, Sisyphus, and the Warden logistic vehicles, which I will cover as well. And this is very good for the support that infantry needs. So when we get back to the base, so the Gemeni. Now that we have our Xiphos back up here, same thing applies. You have to go to a motor pool in order to upgrade it to the Gemeni. So as before, swap the fuel out so that you do not lose it. Clear the pad, interact with it, and select the Gemeni. Once you have enough power. I guess something ran out. When upgrading, always ensure that you have power to operate your facility, or it's just going to say, haha, you suck. Over here, ensure that your generators are on. There is nothing on right now. We'll go public, turn that off, and refuel from the tinderbox, as this is completely up. Once this has enough in it, public on, and you are good to go. So, as before, come over here to the motor pool and select the Gemeni. That branch will give it an instant go. I'm going to swap the fuel over to petrol and fill it up. Now, one key thing to note comparative to the Percutio and the Xiphos is the Percutio is meant for anti-tank stripping of armor, and the Xiphos is meant for anti-infantry. Where this differs is it has a dual RPG launcher as its turret. And just like the Percutio and the Xiphos, you can rotate it 180 degrees. It fires 2 at a time, starting with the left and then going to the right. So if I'm shooting at this flatbed, let's say it's enemy, and it's got a little bit of a distance too, and a little bit of what I like to call fly distance, which is further than what the white line shows. When I fire, it'll fire this one first and then this one. It has an inventory of 12 RPGs with 2 loaded, 14 in total. It is good against bases, it's good against vehicles. Not so good against infantry unless they're clustered together. Where the other 2 lack, this makes up, and where this lacks, the other 2 make up. Everything has its pros and cons associated with it, with every vehicle and every upgrade. Next, we are going to talk about the very base model of the tanks, the Tankette. Now, I'm going to leave this here for a very, very simple reason. I'm taking the flatbed all the way to the garage. You will understand why here shortly. So whenever I get to the town, I'm going to make a Tankette, and you'll see why I'm going to be utilizing the flatbed for transportation. Alright, now that we are back at the garage, we are going to build a Tankette. It is right here, the Acheron 12.7 Tankette. Its cost is 35 Armets. And as you can see, it is open top. It has a driver and a 12.7 gunner. Easy to decrew, but effective against infantry. This is one of the first tanks that the Colonials get, and is very, very useful on stifling any enemy advancement when they attack. So, you know how I said I was bringing the flatbed? Here's the reason. They are very, very, very slow. I'm not even going to bother swapping fuel this time. I'm going to package it, pick it up, and I'm going to place it in the flatbed. And I may need to move the flatbed. I think it's not far enough over, which it is not. Just fine. And we are also going to do this with the other versions of the Tankette. The Ixion, the Vesta, and later the rocket Tankette, which I don't see too many rocket Tankettes out on the field whenever they are available. but it's always cool to see one when you do. So once we get back at the facility, I will have this up. I will have this off the flatbed, and we will upgrade this to the Ixion. Okay, now that we have our flatbed back at the facility, let's go grab the crane. And I'm going to explain why it's easier to drop this off on the pad with the crane than just driving it all the way from the garage, unless the area you are upgrading it at is next to a storage depot or a seaport. And yes, I was checking the fueling status. This also plays a factor with material pallets as well, and liquid containers also, or fuel containers as well. For anything that is packaged, aside from shipping containers, resource containers, material pallets, fuel containers, even vehicles. If you have it packaged and you are dropping it off on an offload area like a pad or a transfer station or so, and it will do that bug sometimes where it says there's nothing to pick up, hop out of the crane, hop back in. Very, very simple. What you do is you pick it up with the crane and look for that double gear icon, that double gear cog, drop it on. Instantly, you have access to the pad on what you want to upgrade, to include the stockpile of the items itself. This is very useful for transporting or transferring mass quantities of items from a material transfer station to a building, or a material pallet to a transfer station, or even dropping liquids off from the liquid container to a building that takes them. So here we are going to select the Ixion, and I don't even need to be out for this, but I'm going to regardless. From here you can see that there's a driver and the commander. What's different about this is the commander is also the gunner. It fires a 30 mil gun. Its capacity is 36 total 30 mils, 1 loaded, 35 reserved, with 1 slot spare, typically reserved for BMATs or fuel. And because of how slow this thing is, it's always notable to have fuel or BMATs on standby, because you are going to get damaged and tracked very easily. So just like the Tankette, and I did not want to package that up, but that's fine. Just like the Tankette, we are going to package this and set it on the flatbed. Your larger vehicles, like your Hosta, your self-propelled gun, and your battle tank, cannot be placed on a flatbed, and your super heavy cannot even be packaged. From here, grab the Ixion, we place it on the flatbed, and we are good to go to drop it off at the seaport. I'm going to show how to pick something up from the seaport and drop it off inside the seaport as well. So we will be there. We'll come back once I am there. Now, if we have arrived at the seaport, it's imperative to know how to offload stuff from a truck or out of a boat or off a train. First and foremost, you want to ensure that you are making sure that there's nobody inside the crane. Once you are next to the crane, and if there's a vehicle near it, it'll take the vehicle interaction over the crane every time. You press Q to enter the crane. You'll hold a right click until it goes over the shippable item. In this case, the Tankette. You'll left click on top of it where you see the double gear cog, and then you'll bring it over to the pad. You see the double gear cog again, as you can see here. You're able to drop it on. And where it is from here, submit loading area equipment, and you are good to go. Next up, we are going to upgrade the Tankette to the Vesta, the Flame Tankette. Now that we have transported another Tankette over to the facility, do the same as before. I did forget to mention the cost of the Ixion. So we'll go over here. And I think I forgot to mention the cost of the Percutios. The Percutio is 10 construction materials, 10 assembly material ones. The Gemeni is 10 CMAS, 10 assembly ones. The Ixion is 10 CMAS, 15 ASM ones. And the Vesta, 10 process construction materials and 15 assembly material ones. From here, we left click. Very, very easy. And I am going to go ahead and package this up because it is ready to go. Oh. Yeah, I'm not going to package this up. This has a 2-slot, much like the 30 mil, but instead of it firing 30 mil, it has flame ammo. It can carry 6 in total, 1 loaded, 5 spare, or a 7th one here, or a BMAX, or what have you. This is mainly used in an area to where you want to send a message, torch down a strategic building such as a town base or a town hall. If you start smoldering a building, the enemy cannot repair it, and it'll basically say you are getting hot and everything else. Just like the Tankette variant, this is extremely slow. Very, very highly recommended to transport on a flatbed, on a barge, via iron ship, or on a train if you want to make a difference. Because trying to drive this from Red River up towards any front will take quite the time. But if you want to drive it that distance, go ahead. It is useful in any metric that you may think about. So from here, we're going to package up, we're going to place on the flatbed. And then we are going to swap over and drop this off to the seaport. And we are going to cover the Jeep as well as its 2 upgrades. So once we get to the garage, we will cover that. Alright, we are back at the garage. Next up is the Argonaut or the Jeep. And its cheap cost is only 10 Armats. Let's go ahead and hammer this up, and we are going to drive this up to the facility and drive the upgraded version back, because these are much quicker than the Xiphos. These are quicker than the Tankette, so we are going to showcase the Argonaut along with its upgraded counterparts as well. Now, one thing to note with the Argonaut, it is open top, it is a 4-seater. You see this little icon up here. As long as you have a radio on you while you are in the Argonaut, you are able to see the intel that is being transmitted all throughout anywhere that is within intel range. This is very good for driving off-road. And it is what is mainly used to do what is known as switch running for the large gauge rails. Much like the motorcycles, you can fishtail, but this one has an easier correction versus the this motorcycle and the Stinger. I can't remember the base name of the motorcycle, to forgive me. And it's also much more forgiving for when you try to correct. Even if you overcorrect, it'll still straighten you out pretty easily. So don't be afraid to turn on a dime. This vehicle, along with its upgraded counterparts, are pretty sought after. Are pretty sought after by the enemy, and vice versa with the Colonials and the Wardens light utility vehicles. The Argonaut and the Odyssey, which is the first one we are going to upgrade, is very useful for driving out and about and providing intel for your allies. It is also useful for destroying intel for the enemy. Meaning, if you have one of these and you're driving around and you want to knock out enemy watchtowers, let's say this vehicle icon's a watchtower, this here over here is a watchtower, over here is a watchtower. If you have mammons on you or anything of high explosive that can take out watchtowers, it'll be able to do it with these. So let's swap over the fuel, clear the pad, and let's upgrade this to the Odyssey. The Odyssey's cost is only 3 construction materials. And what makes this interesting about it is it has very, very light armor. Change fuel, drop that, and fill this up. Now, like the Argonaut, it also does provide intel and is also a light utility vehicle. But again, this one is lightly armored, and instead of it having a 4 slot, it has a 3 slot. A driver, a passenger, and a commander. Now, if you were ever in a commander seat, you press E to open up the hatch. You can fire a secondary from here. You cannot fire a primary. And then to get back in, press E again. Let's go ahead and drive this back up to the seaport, and I will be back with another Argonaut to upgrade to a Icarus. And just like before, we have another Argonaut on the pad, this time ready to upgrade the Icarus, which only costs 3 CMETs and 10 Azmat 2s. Just like that, it is ready to go. Now, interesting thing about the Icarus is it has side plating to protect your driver and first passenger. This is a 3-seater. You have your driver, your passenger, and your rear gunner. To access the rear gunner, you can come to the back and fire the RPGs as such. The traversal, like the cone of firing, is actually pretty good until you need to adjust it. But for the most part, it's a very solid vehicle. It has 2 additional inventory slots. It can hold up to 9 RPGs, 1 loaded, 8 spare. And it's also pretty fast with its off-road capabilities. Great for hitting strategic targets or for knocking out watchtowers and intel for the enemy. Next up, we are going to be talking about the other upgrades, such as the next pad over. So we did everything on the motor pool. The next one we're going to talk about will be the battery line. I am going to go get a hauler, and I am going to upgrade it to the Skirmisher. Okay, now the biggest question is, how do you take a standard 16 or 15 slot hauler and turn it into a machine of death? Very simple answer is the Skirmisher. Skirmisher costs 70 process construction materials, 10 assembly material 1s, and 8 assembly material 3s. Now, this is a very unique vehicle in the grand aspect that, one, in order to fire it, you need to deploy it, and in order to deploy, you press F from the driver's seat. It has no ability to be used from the driver. The driver's responsibility is to deploy and undeploy. It has a minimum distance of 375 meters. To increase it, you scroll up. Its max distance is 500 meters. It fires 3C high explosive rockets. You can have 16 in total with one spare. And to take a look at exactly how many. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 2 for 16. The only two slots you have is the driver and the gunner. However, it is important to note that using one is semi-effective. Using multiple is immensely effective to great effect. Coordinated with a spotter from a predetermined position of where they want their skirmishers to fire, you can completely wipe out bases with ease. So again, the only way to fire is from here, and you can note the total amount of ammo on the truck right here. Now, once you've fired your payload, it is not as simple as going to a bunker base to grab more ammo and load it up as you would any normal tank or any ammo facility and everything. It requires a team or a pit crew. If you have somebody staying in the gunner, they will spam R. Let me go ahead and undeploy this. They will spam R to reload as people are loading in the trucks. An easy way to understand if it's loaded or not is pay attention to the back parts here. I recommend zooming in until you are ready to fire again. Once you see that the bottom parts of the rockets have been loaded in, constantly press R. Once it is loaded, you will see the bottom part of the rocket in the tubes themselves. That is the skirmisher. Skirmisher is extremely effective at great offense at great distances. Now, that's not to say that if you hit a howitzer, it's not going to fire back. The howitzers may fire back depending on if you are within range. Next up, let's talk about the Hades Nets. The stationary brother to the skirmisher. In similar concept and similar aspect, you will have to have it set at a predetermined set location, but it is not mobile. It is not able to move with ease like the skirmisher. You have your secondary person, which is on the left side, and your main person, which is who controls your operation. Your gunner is on the right side, which increases and decreases the distance. Minimum distance at 300 meters, max distance at 575 meters. It also fires the 3C rocket. Now, same concept as the skirmisher, you will constantly have to press R to reload. It has half of the firing capacity that the skirmisher has. Skirmisher has 16 in its total capacity with one reserve. The Hades Nets have 8 with one reserve. This requires 2 people to adjust the azimuth, mainly to turn it. The gunner on one side, the operator on the other. In tandem and with multiple, you would be surprised at how effective they can be. Next up, we are going to cover the half-tracks and their upgrades. We are back at the garage in the town. The next one we're going to talk about will be the half-tracks. Now, half-tracks are very, very useful in the means that they can go off-road with ease. To build a base Javeline, it costs 55 armament. Let's go ahead and grab the amount we need. and go ahead and knock this out. Now, half tracks are very useful for a number of reasons. One, they are capable of going on and off road at the same speed. Two, they can transport up to 5 troops in total. 2 in the back, 1 in the passenger. They have a back gunner, which the gun can be any tripoded mounted weapon. That is your mounted LMG, or your mounted heavy machine gun, or your mounted infantry support gun, or the grenade launcher, or anything that takes a tripod, whether it's colonial or wooden, it can go on the back of it. It has a gunner seat, which is at the very back in the center, and a driver. It also has light armor. It's not meant to brawl out on the field. And the capabilities of it are really, really well done. It doesn't have the strongest armor, but it does have one of the strongest capabilities out of any and all vehicles at its tech level. Most would argue no. I argue yes. Because it's anti-infantry, it can be anti-tank, it can be anti-building, it can go in and nullify any mammon rushes, it can nullify positions that are being advanced upon, it can even suppress tank lines when used correctly. There are a few upgraded variants to this, one being the upgrade where you need a hitch, where you can pull the heavier items like the Stygian Bolt or the back or the Sisyphus or the Electo, and it can also be upgraded for a mortar half track. Now, I am not going to waste the material to upgrade the half track just for the capability of the tow hitch. I will show what the resources are and what the materials it costs. I am going to upgrade it to the mortar half track. But for any notion, the inventory is pretty simple. This is your designated slot for a certain tripod weapon, and it will have the ammo and the total amount to follow. Very useful, especially on certain areas and everything else. And the same with the hitch upgrade. It also utilizes tripoded weapons. It doesn't deviate just because it gets a hitch upgrade. The only thing that it does, it allows the ability to tow stuff. That is it. Nothing more, nothing less. And everybody's like, well, why doesn't it come standard? Nobody knows. Really wish it would come standard. This way it's less of a hassle overall. One of the few things that the entire community can agree on, especially those who have played both Warden and Colonial. Now, your light tanks, such as your Tankette and the half tracks, cannot go over trenches. Keep that in mind. If you come across a trench system, completely destroy it in order to advance through, and this way you can ensure your ability to continue to push the line. Again, I am not covering this, or I'm not going to upgrade it. It does cost 3 process construction materials and 3 assembly material 4s. Your Peltast costs 5 process construction materials, 5 assembly material 2s, and 3 assembly material 4s. And here's what it is. Go real quick. Now, your Peltast has a mortar slot in the back, and it has a driver and a commander in the front. In the back, It just has your cannoneer. Most people who are really good with the Peltast will take it solo, meaning they are operating it by themselves. They will have a pair of binoculars to see where they want to drop this on and where they want to support the infantry. Everything is done in the back. Its minimum distance is 45 meters. Its max distance is 80. This is not to where you aim down. You hold the right mouse button to adjust where you want to send it. And it has a pretty fast traversal as well. If I wanted to go from 257 degrees to 0, it's only a few seconds, as you can see. It goes relatively pretty fast. Also, within the armament, to swap mortars, press F. Now, if I had other mortars loaded in here, I'd be able to swap. You see how it says there's no compatible ammo type in the vehicle's inventory. That's because it is empty. You have your HE mortars, your shrapnel mortars, your flare mortars, and your incendiary mortars, for a total of 21 or 20, 40, 60, 70 mortars in total. Reason why the flare mortars are as less quantity. The day and night cycles last 30 minutes apiece, for a total of an hour. You don't need flares during the day, but people will launch them just to meme about, and it's actually kind of funny. So I can respect that. The next one we are going to cover will be the Flame Tankette. I'm going to go submit this into the seaport, and I will have a Tankette ready to upgrade it to the Rocket Tankette. Did not mean to say Flame Tankette. We've already covered that. It will be the Rocket Tankette. Alright, now that we have another Tankette facility, I swear it's easier to transport them instead of driving them all the way from the town just to, offload them. We can now upgrade it to the Deoineus rocket battery. Cost of 20 process construction materials, 15 assembly material 1s, and 3 assembly material 3s. Let's go. And much like how certain things are with Rocket, you always have to deploy. This has a driver and a commander. And just like previous, you can hop in the commander seat and pull your weapon up. However, in the commander seat, you do not have to worry about deploying it. It will automatically be ready to go. Minimum range of 350 degrees or meters, max range of 400 meters. And it does not have the capability of traversing, which means if you want to fire this, you will need a driver to turn you in order to do so. This way it's easier to manage. It has the capacity to fire in total 9 4C rockets. It looks like it looks more like a 6-shooter than a 9-shooter, if anything. But to tell if it's loaded, look at the front, because it's hard to see the back whenever it's like this. Front will have the warheads of the rockets loaded. 8 tubes on the outside, 1 on the inside, and 1 reserved for a total of 10. Very good at lighting stuff on fire and extremely effective at ensuring that bases can burn to the ground. I'm also going to cover the flak gun, the emplaced anti-air gun, right after I get power back up. Okay, now that we've got power back to the base, the DAE 5V Zeal. Its cost: 30 processed construction materials, 10 assembly material 1s, 20 assembly material 4s. interesting about this is it looks like a specific style place gun known as the Raptura, but it is not. In order to utilize it, first need to have it deployed in any area. An octagon and placed area is best suited. This way you have more protectivity from any type of bombardment or anything in that nature. It has the ability to, or it has the armament of the anti-aircraft shell, which is produced in the ammunition factory. It is a large item, meaning you are going to need people to come over and crew it. The distance that it fires is 500 meters. And it pretty much a point fire style weapon. In order to use the gun, you need to have somebody to relay information to you via the radar center, and you also need a crewman, a secondary crewman, in order to use it. Once more people understand the ability on how to use it, I think it'll be extremely effective. But for now, it just seems as if it's a you're gonna need intel centers and everything else to be able to fire it as effective as possible. Because this should have the capability to fire up in the air. And again, the armament is the anti-craft shell. That covers everything in the battery line. Next, we are going to cover the other items that you can build, such as the tank factory. After the tank factory, we're going to do the field station, and then last but not least, the weapons platform. So first up will be the hatchet and its 3 upgrades. So I'm going to return to the town, and we are going to hammer out a hatchet. I'm going to go over its capabilities, and we will go from there. Well, now that we're back in the town, let's go ahead and knock out a hatchet. The hatchet is the Colonial's early version of 40 mil. It is a light tank, very capable of holding its own in just about any tank line, and its upgraded counterparts can also do the same. Its base cost for a single in the garage is 115 refined materials. So let's go ahead and just grab 115 real quick. 26, go figure. Put some of these back. And let's go ahead and hammer this out. I will also speed this part up, so it's not going to be taking forever. And I thought this is completely hammered out. Let's go ahead and move it out of the garage in case anybody else needs to use it. Now let's go over the hatchet's base capabilities. The hatchet itself is a 40-meter light tank that can essentially turn the tide whenever things are starting to become stagnant in the early/mid-war state. It has 3 slots: a driver, a gunner, which is the turret center, and a commander. Obviously, the driver is going to be on the left. The gunner will always be on the right, and commander can enter from the back. If you are in a hurry, Shift Q will show. The hatchet has a max range of 40 meters. There is no deviation between it whatsoever. And its turret can traverse 360 degrees. It is also pretty good on speed. Now, if you do not want to be holding W forever, there's a little keybind trick that a lot of people use, myself included, to ensure that we get from point A to point B very easily. You press enter, hold control, press W, release both, press enter again, and now you have entered what we like to call cruise mode. With the hatchet, most people will make a vast majority of them in the MPF. You will hammer them out like I do. The reason why the hatchets are so good at what they do is they provide immediate upgrades at the pads. You have your flame hatchet, your light tank destroyer, and your boost on the 40 mil tank. All 3 variants play a vital role in support of any offense that anyone is doing. Capable of ensuring that devastation can occur to any forward base that the enemy has, the hatchet has solidified its role in any metric of any battle towards any war. Furthermore, the hatchet is a good learning tool for anyone who's trying to understand tanks. There is always somebody willing to teach somebody, and they will risk a much more expensive vehicle such as a Falchion, a Bardiche. They will not risk a battle tank unless they are actively producing mass quantities. A couple regiments that I know right off the bat that produce mass quantities of battle tanks, super heavies, and self-propelled guns or SPGs are Knight and Joe. These 2 regiments tend to take up either half to an entire hex worth of space because of the amount of land that they need for their projects. Once we get up here, we will be covering the flame hatchet, which is known as the Vesta. It is a very, very nice little tank to use. It is a medium flame damage style tank. When we come over here, find the vehicle pad we need. I'm almost certain it is a tank factory. It should be this one. We're going to go with the Vulcan. Excuse me, I misspoke. We're going to start with the Vulcan. Its cost is 8 processed construction materials, 20 assembly material 2s, 5 assembly material 3s. So, as before, put the tank on the pad. We will swap out the fuel, and we will upgrade it. Further note that the hatchet can be packaged and placed on a flatbed for transportation across longer distances and where as needed. Keep in mind the hatchet's total armament is 35 reserve 40mm shells with 1 loaded for a total capacity of 46. Let's go ahead and select the Vulcan, and thank you to Deparent because this is a lot faster. Let's swap the fuel over, drop the diesel, and fill this up so that I may cover what the Vulcan has. Similar to the hatchet, the Vulcan is also a light tank variant. However, instead of 40 mil, it fires flame ammo. Again, it is a medium firing flame tank, and is capable of lighting itself on fire at a very, very rapid rate. Tier 1 and Tier 2 does not stand much of a chance. Tier 3 defenses and bunker bases are, in of a nutshell, kind of safe from it, where you need multiple sources of fire and multiple variants of different flame sources, multiple hatchets, just to be able to set it ablaze. Now, as similar to the hatchet, the Vulcan has the driver, the center, which is the gunner, and the commander. This does not have a very large radius or very large range of ammo. The ability to be able to fire. So let's go ahead and showcase what the Vulcan's fire rate looks like. In doing so, you get flame ammo from the ammo facility. It is a large item. Come up to the tank itself, and instead of interacting with the inventory, you press V to submit. Once you have your flame ammo in there, you will see your stockpile in here. Press R to reload. And now you are good to go. Your max range is probably around 20 meters. This is what it looks like whenever you have the flame going. We'll light this tree on fire, but I don't think it's possible. And as I've said before, click lock plays a factor in here, where I can hold it down and it'll still launch the fire. What would have been really cool is that she was able to be lit on fire, but I guess you can't. That is the capability of the Vulcan. The next tank we cover will be the Pelekys, the light tank destroyer. So I have another hatchet on the pad. This one will be for the light tank destroyer, the Pelekys. Its cost is 8 process construction materials, 20 assembly material 2s, and 5 assembly material 3s. As you'll note, it is a 2-seater open top. Reason being for this is it is a tank destroyer. Instead of it firing 40 mil, it fires 68 millimeter anti-tank ammo. It has one unique advantage over the vast majority of all colonial tanks, and that is due to its range. The majority of the colonial tanks fire anywhere between 35 to 40 meters. This one is an increased distance of 5 additional meters. The only one that is a tank that fires 45 meters. However, it is limited in its capabilities of traversal. What it makes for the traversal on the turret, more, or what it lacks in traversal, it more than makes up for it in sheer speed and handling. With it being an open top, it means that you have to pay attention to your surroundings if you are the driver. The driver cannot be idle for too long and has to ensure that both him and their gunner are able to live. The next upgrade that we do will be the Kranesca, or Cranny for short. Hatchet upgrade will be the Kranesca. The Kranesca is also a 40 millimeter light tank. However, it boasts a unique variable like its Vulcan and Pelekys counterpart that neither tend to have, and that the base hatchet does not have either. Its description is it has a it can be carried by vehicles up to medium-sized shiploads, use diesel and petrol for fuel, and it also requires the hatchet. Now, it doesn't say that it has a slightly increased armor because of the sandbags that are on here, but in the description it does mention that the vehicle can boost, which is true. Much like the Sisyphus, all you do when driving is you press the shift key and you are able to boost through. Now, when boosting, it's good to note and carefully understand it drains fuel a lot faster. It has a 3-slot seat, a driver, a gunner, and a commander, and its cost is 5 process construction materials, 20 assembly material ones, and 5 assembly material 4s. Its max range, again, is 40 meters. The only one that beats the range battle here is the Pelekys, or LTD for short. And you can hear it going. You hear that gas go vroom vroom, so you know you are boosting. Please note this is normal speed, how the fuel is not being consumed too much, where the line isn't, where the fuel gauge is just in the center of the E. If I hold shift while going, you can see the consumption of fuel is much, much greater, and it's also worthy to note. Now, the next one we go over would be the Spatha and the Falchion. I will cover the Falchion stuff at the garage and talk about it on the way to the pad or when we upgrade it to the Spatha. Now, the next vehicle and tank that we're going to cover will be the Falchion. It is the Colonial standard when it comes to tank lines due to its MPFable nature and its ability to hold lines when crewed by skilled gunners. When you have unskilled gunners, that's when your line suffers. Its cost in the garage is 135 R mats. With this, once it is completely hammered out, I will go over its capabilities, but talk about its other aspects as well. It has a 40-meter range, firing a 40-millimeter shell, able to target infantry, vehicles, and structures alike. It has decent armor to where it can brawl with some good tank lines and some good tank battles. Notable aspects of it is its driver, which enters on the left, the gunner, which enters on its right, where I am at, and the commander, which enters behind of it. One golden rule to note with any tank, especially if you are the gunner: death before dismount. Meaning, you die with the tank. The driver and commander should always be the ones to hop out to repair any tank. The gunner is the one that stays inside the tank should the driver be wounded or killed in the process. The gunner has the ability to press Control 1 and get the tank out of harm's way, even if they are trapped. As the tank is retreating, call out for help. It is the easiest way to ensure that your tank can survive and that your infantry can do their job. Personal note, time and time again, whenever I have infantry doing their job by protecting the armor, the fronts move and we are able to survive a lot longer than whenever they do not. Notable aspects of it are infantry covering the blind side, the gunner maintaining a direct approach, and the commander paying attention to the map. All three should, at least with their tank kit, have a radio on them. If not the driver or commander, definitely the gunner. Because the reason being, the gunner can see farther than the driver. Now, once I get this on the pad, we will upgrade it to the Spatha, and I will go over its capabilities. A notable aspect that I forgot to mention is the Falchion's armament and the amount of ammo that it can hold. It can hold 45 40mm shells with one loaded for a total of 46. It also has 2 additional inventory slots for either fuel or an additional 200 basic materials. If need be, if you're taking a Falchion out on an excursion and doing a party knock, you can place a listening kit or anything else that is needed to provide that immediate support where you need. Now we have the Falchion on the pad. Talked about the cost for the Falchion to go from a Spatha or from a Falchion to a Spatha. Its cost for the Spatha is 8 process construction materials, 10 assembly material 1s, and 8 assembly material 4s. Fairly cheap for an upgraded tank that has a much faster reload on the turret, better armor, and better capabilities. Same armament amount, same style shell, and same 2 slots. The Spatha is what is referred to as the colonial standard when it comes to tanking. Able to keep pace with other cruiser tanks from the Warden side, the Spatha can outshine Warden tank lines when a skilled crew can always get the flank and the ability to know when and where to poke. Just like the Falchion, you have a driver, a gunner, and a commander. Next, we will talk about the Bardiche and the Ranseur, otherwise known as the Quadiche. The very next item we are going to talk about will be the Bardiche, or what many refer to as the Brawler. Bardiche's capabilities are that it is very heavily armored. It fires a dual shot 68mm and has a 12-7 cannon on it. When you have more than one in a line, and you have extremely skilled crews, you are instantly able to cripple any tank line that you come across. I selected the wrong one. I don't want that. I don't want that. Go away. Thank you. Now within here, it has a driver, a main gunner, which is the dual shot 68mm, which means you load it twice and you're able to click once, click again. The 12-7 gun has its own traversal, but is limited by the main gun's capability of where it is looking. Once this is hammered out, we will go over the armament. Now that we have this completely hammered out, its capability is 40 reserve shells with one loaded for a total of 41, and 30 canisters with one loaded of 12-7. You can see up here where the double shot would take place. Its max range is 35 meters. While it is crippled in range, it makes up for it in sheer armor. And the machine gun, as I mentioned, is only limited by where the main gunner is looking. It boasts 75 rounds of 12-7. And while the Bard is a little chunky and a little slow, it is 100% worth it in the long run. Once this is loaded up with fuel and on the pad, we will go over its upgraded counterpart, the Ranseur, or the Quadiche. Now that the Tour de France is completed with how slow the Bardiche is, we're going to upgrade this from its base model to the Ranseur, which is the Quadiche. Its cost is 10 process construction materials, 10 assembly materials 2s, and 10 assembly material 3s. There is a very, very big difference here with the Bardiche or the Ranseur, which I will go over here shortly after I get this field filled up. I want to take a look at something real quick. I have 2 more. 2 more items to go over on the tank factory. And yes, this can be painful if you do not have a burrito or a liquid container right next to you, or even a tinderbox, which is the small gauge refueling tank. It can be a little painful. The Ranseur has 3 slots: a driver, a turret front, and a commander. The front is the 12-7. 200 rounds of 12-7. It is responsible for keeping fire for where the rockets want to fire. Much like the Bardiche, it is a 360-degree traversal turret, and it houses 30 canisters with 1 loaded, 31 in total. The RPGs are fired from the commander seat. They are fired 4 at a time. Why people call it the Quadiche. See the 2 rocket rails on the sides, and just like last time with the rocket armored car, this one fires right side, left side, left side. And just because it has a range where it'll hit on the road, it has an additional 5 to 10 meter flight range as well, meaning it can go further than where it shows. You can have 40 with 4 loaded for a total of 44. Next, we will cover possibly the slowest moving vehicles, the Scorpion and the Ballista. The next vehicle we are going to cover will be the Scorpion. Possibly one of, if not the slowest moving vehicles. Its cost is a flat out 100 armament, and its capability is very, very, very unique. So once I get this hammered out, we will go over its capabilities and continue from there. And you can see this is what I'm talking about with people helping out, trying to move on the stuff and go on from there. Because I wasn't aware of what they were trying to do, and I'm pretty sure they want me out of their way as soon as possible, which is completely fine. You can see he has the parachute uniform with the parachute and the pilot's uniform on as well. So from here, once we are completely done, I am going to drop the rest of the armaments inside the garage's inventory, hop in the driver, and then we are going to cover the Scorpion's armament and its abilities. Appreciate you, man. So let's go ahead and hop over. And let's move this over to here. And get some fuel. But before we get going, I want you to see something. We have a driver, a right gunner, and a commander. The commander seat is actually the left gunner as well. This has a 12-7 infantry style gun, which each one is dependent of their own selves. Meaning the left can focus on the left, the right can focus on the right. It's also quite possibly one of, if not the slowest moving vehicles in the entire game, next to the Widow and the heavy tank destroyer. The heavy tank destroyer, which is the Widow, and the Ballista, which is its upgraded variant. So once we get this up at the facility and on the pad, we will upgrade it to a Ballista, and I will cover its capabilities. Just spending about 15 minutes literally driving this thing from the garage, which is located here, to where I'm at. It's here, south of Camp Epsilon. We are now finally in position to upgrade it to the Ballista. And I'm not going to bother to swap the fuel on this one because I'm going to keep this here. And I'm out of power again. Let's fix that real quick. And we go back to the pad and we click the upgrade that is needed. The lights are on. That tells me that power is functional. And we take a look at the Ballista, the HC7 Ballista Siege Tank. And I can hear that supercharger of the Ares. Now, the Ballista is your siege tank. It can hold 11 250 purity shells in total. It also deals demolition damage. It can also house infantry on the back. I guess it can't anymore. Excuse me, it was the Scorpion that you were able to do that. Not on here. You've got the driver, the cannoneer, and the commander. The driver's responsibility is to drive it up to any area that the ballista is needed. The commander is to guide it through any mines it sees, and the cannoneer's responsibility is to ensure that the arc and the traversal of where it's at is where it needs to aim. It has a slow turret traversal speed and a minimum distance of 6 meters and a max distance of 25 meters. This is an arcing cannon. This is not point blank. So we are going to move this off the pad, and then we are going to cover the Raptura. The Raptura can be made at either this pad or on the construction yard in any town that has a construction yard and where it is unlocked in the tech tree. It tends to change from war to war on where it's at in the tech tree, but the Raptura is a great defensive tool against mass quantities of infantry. It is great on taking out trench lines that is needed, as well as defense of a base, especially from an aggressive tank line. The Raptura is really, really solid. Unlike the Hades Net and the flat cannon, you do not need a secondary person to fire. Its max range is 45 meters and fires a 75 meter shell. Why it has two sides is beyond me. Possibly one to be a spotter, one to be a gunner. It can only hold 2 shells at a time, one loaded, one secondary. So use it sparingly. Typically, you will see a box behind an octagon or right next to the Raptura, where people are storing the additional ammo for it, and that it can be used effectively. That covers the tank pad, i.e. the tank factory. We will be covering the field station, starting with the harvester. What I'm going to talk about is the field station. The majority of the items can be made here, but some of them require you to go to a garage or near a relic or town base in order to make. But first up, we're going to talk about the auto harvester or the scrap hauler. Its cost is 90 processed construction materials and 25 assembly material 4s. Now, in its description, it says it can get rid of mines. I have yet to be able to see that it can do this. The hauler is a very fast user on any resource node, such as salvage field, component fields, sulfur fields, and coal fields. The only area it is not useful for is oil fields. I will say this, Infantry tends to climb in the back by going up and pressing space and using it as a flame harvester, which means they have flame backpacks and will fire out the back. It is absolutely insane to see. Well worth the investment to bring it up into the front line, and with people that want to be absolutely insane. I love seeing it from time to time, even whenever it's the enemy that's doing it. There is no vehicle requirement to be placed on the pad for the harvester. However, the next one, the fabricator, you need the construction vehicle in order to create. I prefer the ACV or advanced construction vehicle over the basic construction vehicle because of its ability to essentially build anything and almost everything within the build menus. It can build any of the basic items. However, you see where it says those shovel construction equipment. Shovel and construction equipment. Construction equipment. There is one where it says advanced construction vehicle construction equipment. If it says hammer or construction equipment, you know you have an ACV ready to go and you can do it. Right here. A wall, tier 1. Build with hammer, advanced construction vehicle, or construction equipment. At the gate, a regular CV or an ACV. Now, I'm going to empty out the inventory here, back run over here as if I'm in slow motion, drop it in the inventory of the LTS, or the Liquid Transfer Station, and we are going to upgrade the regular Universal Assembly Rig, or the construction vehicle, into a advanced construction vehicle, i.e. ACV. And you'll note it goes from an orange to a silverish type color, indicating that it has indeed been upgraded. There's no inventory space, there's no armor increase, there's no speed increase. The only thing you have the ability to do is use it to just about anything and everything now. Meaning you can build one of these, you can build pillboxes, you can build just about anything that says advanced construction vehicle in lack of where BCD would be. The next item, we will be talking about the Acheron and the Doru APCs. I need to go build one at the garage, and then I will bring it here to upgrade to its advanced stuff. The only thing that the ACV cannot do is it cannot build any trench lines or anything of that nature. Meaning, if I was to set a blueprint for a trench from here to here, it will not allow me to build it with a shovel or without a shovel. I have to use a shovel or construction equipment in order to use the advanced construction vehicle, or not use it in order for that trench to be built and everything in conjunction with that. So next, we're going to be talking about the two APCs, as well as the upgraded version of the APC, the Doru, for troops up to 6 at a time across bodies of water is your Acheron APC. At a very cheap cost of 20 RMAX, it is effective at being able to transport up to 6 people across bodies of water, make beach landings, and even traverse trenches to cause a little bit of mayhem. This one, it does not have any capabilities of defending itself, so it has to rely on a skilled navigating driver and somebody in the back calling out what they see. To be able to do so, it has a driver and a passenger. That is all it has, just a driver and a passenger. Passenger has the inability to fire out the back or even around it. Now, to get in the back, you have to press F to drop the ramp for people to come in, and you can hold up to 6 people, annotating 2 by 2 by 2. Notated by the little grooves right here. This is your area where people would have to go past. You have 2, 4, 6 per section. Once we get over to the facility, I will upgrade this to the Doru, and I will explain its capabilities. However, we are not going to take a road. I'm going to show why an APC is as effective as it is on land, just as the reason for it calling an amphibious personnel carrier. Let's hop in the driver, raise the ramp by pressing F, and let's go jump off the side of the dock. The speed isn't the greatest, but it's not the worst. It's faster than a Scorpion and much faster than a Ballista and way faster than a Widow. One key aspect to note with the APC is you can kind of see the flaps down at the bottom. And unlike other vehicles, if it has treads, it can climb. And Voxel, if you have treads, you don't need no stinking roads. You can make your own path. In this aspect, and in just this setting, you can easily go from land to sea with one fell swoop. Now, all you have to do is just make sure that you have your own path, which is anywhere you want to go, while at the same time paying attention to mines now, because they will damage any aquatic vessel, any aquatic vehicle. Note that I'm not able to just climb up the rocks. I have to be at an area where it will allow traversal. The rocks to the water will not. The indicator is by the beaches. You can see right here, this is a beach line. If you're trying to land on a beach or, anywhere within that nature, ensure that you have the capability to access a beach head and a beach line in order to get back from sea to land. This to my right is a dry dock. I will go over the vehicles and its cost in a much later video. And in comparison to light watercraft, you have the biggest item that any faction can ever create, a battleship. Again, I will go over the naval vehicles and the dry dock in a much later video, as well as showcase what each one's capabilities are, the stockpiles, how to operate each area, and how to do each area. I will not build my own dry dock, and I will not build my own vehicles. I will be asking people for their permission in doing so. And as I mentioned in a previous video, I do not believe in double takes, so you are seeing me try to navigate around this battleship. Go ahead and cut to the right and see if there's any way. There is a beach line right here, but there's also something here. So we're going to navigate around here and hit this beach line. So once we get to this beach line, I should be able to climb up on land and continue on towards the pad to upgrade this to the Doru. It only depends if I'm able to climb up. Also, within the APC, you can go under bridges. This looks promising. Am I able to climb up? I do not think so. I'm able to climb. Oh, I am not able to climb, which is no big deal. So what we do is we navigate the waters, and when we get to a beach, I will show how to just go from land to sea, which is very simple. You drive on it, and we will continue from there. You can see here's a beach line right here, and you just drive on. This vehicle next to me is known as a long hook. It is basically a mobile base and a mobile area for troops to offload for invasions, otherwise known as yeet hooks. So when we get to the pad, we will upgrade this to the Doru, and I will explain its functions as well. Now that we have made the journey from land to land to the facility, we are going to upgrade this from the Acheron to the Doru. So we come over here to the field station, and we select the Doru. Its cost is 5 processed construction materials and 3 assembly material 3s. How do I not have enough? I guess I didn't account for it. No big deal. Completely fine. This is why I built the rail line like such. I just need 3 assembly material 3s. I'm gonna grab at least 10, if not more. And again, this is why I'm glad magic boxes are a thing on Death Branch, because none of this would be possible with the nuke right here, at the pads that I have, all of this. None of this would be possible without magic boxes on Death Branch. As I mentioned in the previous video, up here at the top left, or the top right, where it says pre-release, that is how you can tell if it's Death Branch or live work. So now that we have our assembly material 3s here, we select field station and the Doru. In similar stance as the previous version, the Acheron, the Doru's capabilities are of it having a driver and passenger on top of a gunner. The gunner fires an actual 50 caliber machine gun, but it's listed as 12.7. Its lane of fire is probably that of a 45 degree, and it can only hold 30 belts of ammunition with 5 additional slots for inventory, like maybe shirts or providing logistics or something of that nature. And also doing so, it can carry up to 4 additional people, because you have this slot reserved for the gunner and these 2 areas reserved for passengers. Both APCs will not allow you to board the back or close the back if any of your passengers are over encumbered. Meaning, if you have a red box directly next to or directly underneath your stamina bar up here in the top left, you cannot close the back if you are over encumbered. The next item I'm going to talk about will be the smelter. But doing so, I need a heavy hauler to transport the battering ram. It makes it a lot easier. Luckily, I have a vetted heavy hauler that I covered in a advanced facility video. Still chilling right here. So whenever I get to the garage and I hammer out the battering ram, I will cover it on top of its upgrade. Okay, in order to have that push gun on the pad upgraded, we need a base model of a battering ram, which is in total of 20 BMET. So let's go ahead and get 20 and hammer this out. Now you'll notice I have my heavy hauler here at the garage. The reason being is if I was to use a regular hauler or a Sisyphus or a Speartip, it would take way too long and its pull capabilities are not that great. I could have upgraded the Javeline to the Hoplite, but I wasn't wasting resources for a tow hitch. Your battering ram is your 68mm push gun that has a max range of 40 meters and a very decent traversal on the turret to be able to move from left to right, possibly about 30 meters in total. It requires 2 people to operate and function, and does not require to be deployed in order to fire at incoming tanks. Most people will tell you do not fire at infantry, but if you suspect one might be carrying anti-tank weapons or anything of that nature, definitely go ahead and shoot them. But be situational about it. Now, to hitch it up to the back of the touring, hold shift, press E, and you click hitch trailer, and it'll automatically do it. And then from here, just drive to where you need it to go. Additional weight you will be able to fill, especially if you're in a hauler, a regular R1 hauler, or a Sisyphus, or a Speartip, or anything of that nature. And because I'm moving fast enough, you can kind of see it whipping around in the back. It's actually kind of funny to see. That's not to say, you know, this is the only style push gun that is best used when towed or transported on the back of a flatbed over great distances, where you were to try to push and go from the very south to the very north, you would 100% be spending a couple of hours just holding W as the driver. The driver is on the left, the gunner is on the right, and if you are trying to move and you fire, you will be staying still for about 3 seconds, plus around another 2 for the reload. Be situational with how you're using it, and always be very, very careful. Now, I'm going to tell you straightforward. If I see a push gun, I'm grabbing a sniper rifle, and I'm trying to snipe you out. Reason being, if I get the driver out or the gunner out, it renders it half decrewed. But if I'm able to get both, I have effectively done my job, and I know my tanks can move up with ease, or, you know, a much better method than actually would have done. Now that we have this here, we're just going to do a tight turn on it just by holding S, or not, excuse me, not S, but A, and you'll kind of see it stutter a little bit because it's not wanting to. I'm going to drive forward and get completely stuck. If you're in a situation like this, see what's going on. And I'm almost certain that the small gauge is preventing it from moving. Let's duck under, hop in here, and back it up. Typically, you would want to package it and then place it on the pad. But because I'm just wanting to move about, I figured just do it, you know, the brutish way. Now I have no choice but to package it, because it is stuck. So I'm going to come up here, unhitch the trailer, and I'm going to drive away real quick off the pad. And there will be times where your audio, like your engine audio and stuff, will disappear. There. We're just going to package this up. Hopefully it doesn't send me to the moon. If it's not, I've actually had that happen before. And it's actually quite funny to see. I low-key kind of wanted it to. Grab this. I'm going to place it on the pad. So I can upgrade this to its next level variant. But I'm just gonna back this crane up on the pad this way or get it close to the pad this way it's a little easier. Move this ACV out of the way too. So let me deploy that, hop out, and move this up and back. Back over to the driver and place this on the pad. Now the smelter is the upgraded variant, and instead of firing a 68mm, it fires a 40mm. And where you can see its counterpart, it actually has a better front shield to prevent it from its driver and operator from being sniped. Now its max range, just like the Battering Ram, is 40 meters as well, but a much smaller traversal for the gun to operate from. Its armament, 41 total shots, 1 loaded, 40 spare. And that is basically it of that push gun. Both base model Battering Ram, upgraded Smelter. Go ahead and back this up if I can't get on the touring and move this out the way, which I really wish the devs would give us chainsaws because they were actually used during World Wars 1 and 2. Would be very helpful. You notice how there's a little bit of a overlap gap on the push gun that's not lined up good enough. Here, trailer, and pull it off that. I'm gonna do a wide turn so that I can unhitch it, set it down. Here and we unhitch, and that is your 40mm push gun, the Smelter. The next one, we're gonna just quickly talk about the 2 tumble boxes. I'm not gonna go and build a trailer to showcase. I've already shown what it costs to build one of them, and there is one right up here at the very top. So your tumble box is what is needed to transport your sort of stockpile items for your aircraft parts and everything. Its cost is 10 process construction materials, assembly material 2s, there are 5 of them, and you require a junk wagon. Same thing for the lamp loader. It requires the same amount plus the base item. This one will hold liquids for fuel. This one holds shippable or stockpile style items like large beams, pecans, ammo, etc. Fuel for the lamp loader, carryables for the tumble box. And last pad that we are going to talk about for the Colonials will be your weapons platform. We're going to go get a Falchion so we can upgrade it to a Talos. And I will have a Battering Ram as well to upgrade it to a Stygian Bolt, as well as a Sisyphus for the Electo Heavy Cannon. So I will be back here at this pad with the Falchion. I have a Falcon here. I've already gone and grabbed the refining materials that I need for the other 2 push variants, and I'm going to place them inside the heavy hauler before I get in the before I upgrade the Falchion to the Talos. This way we can go ahead and easily build out the 2 more push guns that I need to build out, or push variants, as well as the push 120. I will cover the 150 as well whenever I get back to the construction yard. So I'm able to cover just about everything that is vehicle and semi-base related, as well as other areas in that regard. Now, to upgrade the Falchion to a Talos, you need a weapons pad, which is an upgrade to a small assembly pad. That takes 20 steel. The Talos is what everybody likes to call the cheap BT. It costs 15 process construction materials, 10 assembly material 1s, 15 assembly material 4s, 15 assembly material 3s. Time to build, 10 minutes. Why is I not... What am I missing? I have pecans. I have 1s. 1, 2, 3. I do not have 4s. So let's go ahead and grab 100 assembly material 4s. 1s, 2s, 3s, and 5s. That's what I confused with. Let's grab 100 assembly material 4s, and let's upgrade it to the Talos. Here, magic box, U, 2, 3, and 4. Auto clicker go burr. Take the 100 up, and we go forward and submit them. Now, the Talos is referenced as the cheap BT, and it does not take nowhere near the amount of resources, let alone the time to build one. However, it does have one caveat to it. Its speed. Technically, two, if you want to consider its armor. It has a driver, a turret, a commander, and an engineer. Obviously, you know what the driver and the turret and the commander is. The engineer, though, is responsible for loading the shell and keeping the weapon, or keeping the tank repaired. Loading is as easy as pressing R. Keeping it repaired, press E. Always have 100 BMATs on you at all times when you are going in a Talos. It can hold up to 13 75mm shells. It has no anti-infantry capability, so do not try to solo this at all. The traversal speed for the turret is kind of slow. The range on it is 35 meters max. So with the KV2, a lot of people reference it, be very strategic in how you use it. I will note this, it does do damage to the tanks if you know exactly how to use it and where to hit it. And it also does a lot of damage to bases. The 75mm shell is essentially a PvE style shell where it's useful against structures and buildings because of its nature to deal high explosive damage. And in essence, it's a miniaturized nuke. So the next one that we're going to cover will be the 94.5 Stygian Bolt. We have a battering ram on the pad when we return. And I'm not driving this all the way to the seaport. So I will be back. We will cover the Stygian. I want to go over real quick are the Sagittarian and the field artillery. I did not cover those, and that would be a disservice to me. So the Sagittarius is your 12.7mm, and its cost is 20. So let's go ahead and grab 20 armaments, hammer it out, and pull it through with the hauler so you can see exactly how this looks. And I can go over its capabilities as well. And then immediately after, I'm going to go over the 120mm gun, followed by the 250 push gun. So after the 20 BMATs have been hammered, I'm going to hop in the hauler with Thorin, and I'm going to pull this out of the garage, and we are going to talk about it. Up and go. Your 12-7 push gun is your early advancement in the tech tree for infantry lines and being able to take out tier 1 structures with ease. Its capacity is 12.7 millimeter machine gun ammo. That is about it. You'll notice that the traversal for the double barrel is very limited. I can tell you that its max effect is right where this X is. I don't even need to load it up. There's even any ammo in here. And there is. So we're going to get one belt. And here's the funny thing. You don't... Oh, actually you do know. Oh, interesting. Usually you'd be able to... Oh, they increase the range. That's nice. So there is something that I like to call fall off damage. You can see where its max is. But most would associate it to be here. You see how the rounds are going further through, right? That is the fall off line. I'm gonna go ahead and just pull down the trigger. You can see that the double barrel is doing its thing. This is really good at eliminating enemy infantry lines, any type of tier 1 structure, any watchtower, and everything with the light. And the accuracy is pretty pinpoint too. And once this is done and expended, we're just gonna hook this up, move it forward, and then I'm gonna cover the 20 gun. The fire rate on it's pretty solid too. Like, the fire rate's not bad. It wasn't even on the thing. Thank you. Here, unhitch. Back this up to a spot where I can just easily grab the 120 gun. And also, I'm going to cover the 150, which will be on the... The 120 gun cost 50 armaments. We're going to split, grab, hit that, and away we go. And it's taken down by 2s, that's why it says 25 times 2. This is when the early parts of artillery start coming online, whatever they are tech. Why a lot of people have multiple rates of 120 millimeter shell in their stockpiles, because once you have the artillery raining down on structures and suppressing infantry lines, you are able to advance at a much faster rate than most. Now, the push 120 is unique in its own right comparative to the Warden's 120. The Colonials are movable, meaning we can just set up wherever we need to and go from there. Now, in order to have this to be able to fire, the driver, the one on the left, will press F. The platform will expand, allowing a stable platform, and the gunner will be able to fire. Minimum range is 100 meters. Max range is 250. Traversal, 134.1 to 164.4. So it's about a 33 meter traversal on the azimuth. Coordinated with the spotter out at a distance, you're able to fire over 100 meters of distance to 250 meters and even further depending on wind. Sometimes shorter than 100 meters depending on the wind. Now, here, the one thing I'm going to go over next will be the 150 stationary gun. Its cost and is specifically made at a construction yard or at an MPF, mass production facility. Its cost is 195 refined materials. Is there an area I can set this down? There is not. Its capability is minimum distance, I believe, is 150, maybe 250, and its max is 350. Operated by a crew of 2 to turn it, because it is a stationary. It is best used in an emplaced area. 150 millimeter shells are the quintessential point of deleting bases. The polybolos is your arc RPG defenses, where they defend against incoming vehicles. They have a 360-degree radius on turning. Most people will instantly start shooting at infantry with that, and people lose their minds. Its cost is 125 B-Meds. The Sarah, which is a very, very easy buildable and placeable machine gun and place gun, an EMG for short, can be used to defend against infantry and aircraft. When you are trying to use it for aircraft, press Shift and F, and it will allow you to deploy, and you're able to shoot up into the sky. Next, we are going to cover the Electo, or the Tisiphone and the Electo. The Tisiphone cost is 35 B-Meds. So let's go ahead and grab that. And it is a 250 millimeter push gun. Similar to the Bardiche on how it fires with an arcing fire. It is good for breaching and destroying bases. Good for dehusking bunker-based cores. If you are able to get this on the field, do note you are extremely exposed. And like I was saying, its armament is a 250 purity shell, where its traversal is basically point blank. Its minimum is 6 meters, its max is 35, and does not need to be deployed in any manner in order to fire. We are going to bring this to the facility and upgrade it to the Electo push gun, and then we will have one more to talk about, and that will be all of the colonial weaponry in terms of push guns and vehicles, to include emplacements. And we are back at the facility. I am not dealing with what the previous push gun did with the heavy haulers, so I am packaging this up and setting it on the pad. And what we are going to do is we are going to upgrade this to the Electo Heavy Cannon. This requires 10 steel construction materials, 20 assembly material 2s, and 15 assembly material 3s with a 7-minute cooking time. Unlike its little brother, in order to use it, you have to deploy it. Its capacity is 1 Fury Shell. And the Fury Shell deals demolition damage. This is excellent for cracking tier 3 bases. Max range 40 meters, minimum range 30 meters, point fire arc. And unlike most push guns, or field cannons I should say, you are not able to hold the right mouse button and zoom out this way, just to kind of see. I've never been able to do it with the push 120. But here, you're able to. With mine, you were extremely exposed on both sides, but so having a lot of infantry support is very beneficial. Lastly, we are going to go get another battering ram and place on the pad to cover the final weapon, final heavy weapon from the Colonials. 94.5 Stygian Bolt. So, I will be back with the battering ram that I know would be remiss if I didn't mention it, would be following. You have the Chariot Transfer Bus, which is more or less live action roleplay, and it is useful for transporting troops from a further back spawn point to the front. Now, the other one that I'm going to be talking about would be the Nemesis, or as a lot of people like to dub it, the Hot Dog. It costs 150 armats to make, which is why people would typically set them in an NPF or a mass quantity discount. The Nemesis is by far my personal favorite tank to use for a few reasons. One, its condensed size makes it a much harder target to hit on tank lines. Two, it's very, very low chance to be cracked. Three, the ability to not only PvP and actually take on other tanks, but also PvE. And I'll show the armament as well here soon once this is completely built. And four, a lot of people were very skeptical, but for me, I was extremely hesitant on it until I started using it. And then I'm like, I like this one better. And it's a weird looking tank, but it just works. It just works. That's the only way I can say. It's very strong whenever it's in a really solid tank line with the Falchions and Bardiches that are just moved up just a little so that range variables can match and be able to go from there so that can live. The Nemesis is a very, very solid tank overall. It just, the capabilities are unmatched, except for one area where I wish they would give it a capability for it, and that is the anti-infantry. The vast majority of the colonial tanks do not have anti-infantry capabilities, which means no machine guns. They have to waste a 40 mil shot on them just to be able to get them off. So once this is completed, I'm just going to drive this up into the parking lot and explain the capabilities of it. Seven more. 6, 5, 1. And I like the way the engine sounds, how it operates. It does have chains on the tires, which allows it to go fairly decent off-road, but it cannot traverse trenches. Now, it has a driver, a gunner in the center, a gunner in the front, and a commander. Obviously, the center is the main turret, where it has maybe a 320, 330 degree total traversal range. Might even be a little less than that, but it's still pretty good. And then last but not least, the center gun. That is your tremolo launcher. It's got some pretty good ranges. Your max distance for your gun, 40 meters. But it sticks out about maybe 5 additional meters, so you have 5 meters of range. Total armament, 24 tremolos, 4 loaded, 20 spare, and 46 68 millimeter shells. The reason why I include the additional variables is because when you load it, you have it on standby. The way to min-max loading the tremolos: get a grenadier uniform, fill your inventory up with tremolos, have them on your person. The only roles where you actually want a grenadier uniform on you. Always ensure you have a gas mask and a filter with you. DMS, not necessarily. You necessarily don't have to have a crew of 3 or 4 on this. If you have a skilled enough person in a Nemesis, you can get away with 2. A driver and a center gunner with their front gunner as well. Basically, the way to do this is you would be firing, and then control 2 or control 3. Hit them with the tremolos, click 4 times, control 4, open the hatch, pull out binos, and check. That is how you min-max that. The last item I'm going to cover will be the Stygian Bolt, and that will be at the facility. I've already gone and dropped the battering ram on the pad, and now it's time to upgrade to the Stygian Bolt. It costs 15 steel materials, 20 assembly material 2s, and 15 assembly material 3s with a 7-minute cook time. And once again, power is not active. So we go and fix this real quick, and then we will get the upgrade going for the final item of the Colonial Arsenal until I start covering the weapons and everything, which will be in a later video. And what I mean by final item in the arsenal, items that require some level of skill to use, that require R-Max or advanced forms of upgrading. I'm going to go ahead and upgrade that, and now we come to possibly one of the strongest push guns the game has to offer. It can hold up to 4.5 shells in total, 1 loaded, 1 secondary. It is why it's typically pulled by a heavy hauler with a stack of BMATs down at the bottom and 94.5 shells loaded all the way, the rest of the way through. This is not your typical push gun to where you can just fire at will. You have to deploy it, and you have to understand this has a effective and ineffective range. See how it says effective range now? The effective range is 42.5. Your max range is 47.5. The moment that I go out of that max range, I am in ineffective range. You can see it just instantly change. So right here, I am at max. This will delete a tank with 1 shot. It's not something to take lightly, and if you have it out on the front, you better have a lot of infantry support. Because if the enemy gets a hold of it, you can say goodbye to your tank line until it's dead or recovered. The Stygian Bolt is by far one of the most valuable assets until a super heavy or battle tank show up. And even then, you're lucky to see it live. that is basically it for everything here. I will essentially have the items covered in its entirety. I've already recorded the battle tank, the super heavy, and everything else in the previous video, and I hope y'all like this series. Yeah, I've covered the vast majority of the vehicles. We are going to talk about the largest land vehicle that the Colonials have, the Ares. The Ares boasts two 75mm guns. It has a driver, the gunner, who is in the center turret, a right engineer, a left engineer, and a commander. It is built on a large pad, a heavy tanks pad, if you will, as I like to call it. But the actual terminology is the heavy tank assembly. From there, once you have your bad boy going, you ensure that you have your payload set. Keep in mind, it's a double-barreled 75mm gun. You can load 2 and have 20 in reserve. You also have 2 additional slots, preferably BMATs for your engineer. It goes as follows if you want to quickly get into the Ares. Your driver is your first seat, your turret's your second, right engineer is your third, left engineer is your fourth, and commander is your fifth slot. Once you're set, go cause mayhem on the front. Also built on a large pad, unlike its predecessor, the Hasta, the battle tank for the Lance 36, does not fire a 94.5. It fires a 75mm shell. With 1 loaded and 15 reserve, along with 1 canister of 12.7 with 30 reserve, you have an armament to not only hold but push any front that you come across. When you have a combination of 2 or 3 of these battle tanks in conjunction with a Hasta, any front can be turned in your favor. Do note that the positions of the Hasta of the Lance 36 are as follow: the driver, the center turret, which is the 75mm gun, the front turret, which is the 12.7 gun, the commander, and the engineer to ensure repair and reload of this behemoth. However, it is not without its qualms. It cannot go toe-to-toe with the Ares, which is, in essence, its big brother. And in comparison, you can see why the Ares is as big as it is. You have at least 2 of these behemoths out on the field, and you have a really solid tank crew, you're hard-pressed to find failure. When it comes to pinpoint precision and pinpoint armor piercing, the Lance 25 Hasta battle tank destroyer delivers. With this 94.5mm shell and its pinpoint direct fire rate, it's no wonder that tanks get absolutely deleted when they are out on the battlefield. Kind of similar to a Panzer tank that is it's generally a tank destroyer. It does live up to the name as a fucking turtle with a turret. It is heavily armored, very slow, but very effective. The Lance has the driver slot, the main gunner, the commander, and the engineer. The gunner has to coordinate with the driver, as there is very little traversal. 4 degrees in total. So if you want to live in a battle tank destroyer inside of a Hasta, you need to coordinate with your crew. Because trying to be a lone wolf and trying to maneuver this turtle is not going to cut it. You can see the twins here. both lances, and his father, the big brother, the Ares. When it comes to the king of the battlefield and being able to send shells long distances at a rapid fire, that Sarissa delivers. Firing 3 150mm shells in a rapid succession and relying on the engineer to continue to keep it loaded as long as it is deployed. You are good to go to fire. With a minimum range of 120 meters to a max range of 250. Anything that is within your path and anything that has correct support will render any attack and any defense null. As long as you have enough shells to level what you want and the right crew feeding it, there's no reason you should not be able to destroy anything in your path. The Sarissa as the main cannoneer, the engineer for reload, the driver for deploy and reposition, and 4 side passenger seats. And as a passenger, you can pull out your secondary to provide immediate cover for the gunner and the engineer. Defense and offense play a very, very vital part here. And that's basically it for all the colonial vehicles, from the smallest one all the way up to the big boys. I know it was a very lengthy video. I appreciate everybody watching all the way through. And if you liked it, hit that thumbs up. If you didn't, hit that thumbs down. If there's something specific about this that you personally like, go ahead and leave it in the comments. If you could, do me a favor to help out the channel immensely. Smash that subscribe button, click the little bell. This way you get notified whenever I upload another video or go live to YouTube. And I will be having a Warden vehicle showcase in a review as well. And I will definitely see you later. And I appreciate you guys hanging out and watching all the way through. So until then, I will see you on the next one.